published 0233 Est, the 24th of November 2017, updated 0353 Est, the 24th of November 2017. It looked for all the world that England had blown the big chance to put pressure on Australia at the start of the Ashes when they let irritantinchief Nathan Lyon get on top of them at the Gabba on Friday. And then it looked for all the world that England were on the way to what would be a huge upset victory here when they struck 4 early blows to leave the most patriotic crowd in Australia in a state of disbelief. But this utterly compelling opening test is back on a knife's edge after the formidable figure of Steve Smith rode the storm in company with one of Australia's most controversial selections for these Ashes in Shaun Marsh. Australia were in all sorts of trouble before Captain Steve Smith, pictured celebrating his half-century, steadied the ship. It was all England at the Gabba when Jimmy Anderson left took the wicket of Peter Handscomb, leaving Australia on 764. England captain Joe Root clenches his fist in celebration after Anderson take the wicket of Handscomb. LBW Smith came to the crease with the hosts struggling, but his unbeaten 64 on day 2 left the first test finely poised. England bowler Jake Ball celebrates wildly after dismissing David Warner for 26, as the Australian heads back to the pavilion. David Mallon hit an impressive 56 on his Ashes debut to help England to a first innings total of 302 in Brisbane on Friday in a second morning collapse that saw England lose the last 6 wickets for 56 to crash to what seemed a well under par 302 was not enough to break the spirit of an England side quietly impressive ever since they arrived here. What followed was a quite brilliant display in the field by England, with disciplined, penetrative bowling and thoughtful, imaginative tactics from a captain in Joe Root leading his country for the first time in an overseas test. But by the end of a totally absorbing second day, Australia were 165 for 4, still 137 behind, at the Brisbane fortress and relying heavily on their own captain Smith, who was becalmed for long spells by England but remains unbeaten. On 64, how impressive England were with the ball and how well executed were the plans that were devised with a large helping hand from temporary bowling coach Shane Bond, who has made a big impact here on an experienced attack. But if anyone epitomised England in the field, it was the bristling figure of Stuart Broad, still a pantomime villain in these parts, who is never more competitive than when facing Australia, and the odds are apparently against him. The often myopic Channel 9 commentary team were quick to condemn England's field as too defensive when Broad placed men deep on the cover and mid-wicket boundaries to David Warner at the start of Australia's innings. But the plan was to give Warner singles so that Broad could attack the debutant Cameron Bancroft while also preying on the patience of Australia's most destructive batsman. Mallon was in impressive form on Friday morning as he secured his first Test 50, but his was the first wicket to fall on day 2. The 30-year-old raises his bat to take the applause of the Gabba after securing his half-century on day 2 of the Ashes. Mitchell Stark then got his man in the 103rd over of England's first innings, lifting his arms to the sky in celebration cue to the breakthrough, Broad having Bancroft well caught by Johnny Bairstow, and cue, soon after, the implosion of Warner, who got out in a similar way to how England snared him twice in the 2015 Ashes, to a mistimed pull. The demise of Warner gave Jake Ball his first Ashes wicket and left Australia 3 down after Moeen Ali, brought on by Root for the 8th over after the off-spinning success of Lyon had quickly seen the back of Usman Khawaja. When Jimmy Anderson had the quirky Peter Handscomb, a right-hand version of England's Gary Balance LBW with the help of technology after a mistake by Aleem Dar, Australia were 76 for 4 and in big trouble. Moeen Ali was next to go as tourists reached 2,496, with 2 new batsmen in Johnny Bairstow and Chris Woakes at the crease. Australia bowler Nathan Lyon was then celebrating just a few balls later as he took the wicket of Woakes for a 9-ball duck. Woakes heads back to the pavilion without a run to his name as Lyon and the Australia fielders celebrate in the background. They are still very much in this nail-biter of an opening test thanks to Smith and Shaun Marsh, who had badly dropped Broad during his useful 20 but who now came through a testing examination of his own to remain unbeaten on 44. What will particularly please England is that the strong start to this series has come with important contributions from the no-names in the team quickly mocked and dismissed on their arrival here. First, David Mallon joined fellow Ashes newcomers James Vince and Mark Stoneman in making a half-century, and then Ball, earmarked for Australia early last summer by coach Trevor Bayliss, claimed the big scalp of Warner. Bairstow and Jake Ball then fell in quick succession, before Stuart Broad slowed things down and earned England 20 runs right at the end. Australian fielder Marsh dropped a clanger on the square leg boundary, even letting Broad's shot go for 4. Jimmy Anderson left and Broad walk off the pitch after finishing England's first innings with a score of 302 all-out. But what will frustrate Bayliss is that again no England batsman went on to make the type of big century that will be needed here if England are going to carry on competing throughout this series. Still, if you had told England before this game that Alastair Cook, Joe Root and Johnny Bairstow would score 26 runs between them, they would have certainly taken a score of 300 plus against this Australian attack. The unlikely hero of that home attack was Lyon, who backed up his inflammatory words before this series with 2 big wickets on Friday to add to his potentially pivotal run out of Vince when England were starting to take control. Cameron Bancroft was the first to go for Australia as Bairstow took a smart catch low to his right off the bowling of Broad. Broad wheels away in celebration after taking Australia's first wicket, leaving the hosts 71 in the first innings at the Gabba. The dangerous Warner fell for just 26 off the bowling of Ball, leaving Australia's first Ashes innings in the balance at 633. They again seemed about to take a grip on this test on Friday morning when Mallon and Moeen took the 5th wicket stand to 83, but a loose pull from Mallon against an out-of-sorts Mitchell Starc sparked the latest of England's perennial collapses. Starc and Cummins revved up the pace on what remains a sluggish Gabba pitch to finish with 3 wickets each, but could not stop England's last 3 wickets, adding what might still be a priceless 52 runs. While Smith remains at the crease, Australia will fancy their chances but get him early on Saturday and England will be buoyant once again. It really is anyone's game, and that represents a fantastic start to the biggest series of them all. Broad appeals for the wicket of Australia's Shaun Marsh, but the batsman remained at his crease until the close of play. Broad hits the grass at the Gabba after failing to stop a boundary by Australia batsman Marsh on day 2 of the Ashes. Smith carries a look of pure concentration at the crease. It was his innings which restored hope for the Australians in Brisbane. Smith plays a shot down the ground as England wicket-keeper Johnny Bairstow is on from behind the stumps away from the cricket. There was a heartwarming moment as a fan proposed to his girlfriend on the pool deck at the Gabba.